My fiance's mother handed me a $10,000 invoice for raising her daughter. My fiance crossed her arms and said, "Pay it or the wedding's off." I smiled and replied, "Sure, let me grab my checkbook." Instead, I called the venue and canceled everything. That night, I sent her a picture of me and my groomsmen celebrating at the bar. Her frantic calls kept coming in, but every single one went straight to voicemail. I'm Ryan. I'm 30 years old. My job is risk analysis. My entire life is built around looking at the world through numbers and probabilities. I calculate everything: the chance of a market crash, the structural failure of a bridge, the statistical likelihood of a lie. I thought Jessica, who is 28, was a safe variable. I thought she was my anchor. We'd been together for 4 years. The wedding was just 3 weeks away. She was a social media director, creative, warm, brilliant at building an image. It turns out she was just as brilliant at building her own image, an image I bought completely. Then there was her family. Her mother, Jennifer, was intense. She ran a small, aggressive consulting firm called Asset Maximization. Her entire vocabulary was a stream of corporate buzzwords: ROI, leverage, net worth. I always just brushed it off as business jargon. I thought it was just her personality. Her father, David, was the opposite. He was a ghost at his own dinner table, completely passive, always just staring into his coffee cup like it held the secrets to the universe. Looking back, the red flags were there. They were waving. I just classified them as quirks. Jennifer kept calling our wedding a strategic investment. She'd joke about how Jessica's social media presence was a brand asset I was lucky to acquire. I should have listened. This wasn't just a family dinner. This was our official engagement party. 50 guests at the country club, the kind of place where everyone is smiling, but they're also calculating. Jennifer stood up, tapped her champagne glass. She had the floor. "Thank you all for coming," she said, beaming at the guests. "We are so thrilled to welcome Ryan into the family. And as a new business partner, we have a small agreement to finalize this wonderful merger." I chuckled. Merger. Classic Jennifer. She signaled to a waiter who brought over a sleek, leather-bound box. He didn't hand it to me, he presented it. I opened it. Inside, on dark velvet, was a framed invoice, an actual itemized invoice, reimbursement for investment in a high-value asset. It read, below that, private education, social skills training, health and aesthetic maintenance. The total at the bottom, $25,000. I laughed out loud. This is a sophisticated joke, Jennifer. The room went completely silent. My smile faded. David, her father, was suddenly fascinated by his dinner plate. Jennifer was not smiling. "We have invested a great deal to make Jessica the high-value woman she is today," she said, her voice clear and cold. "You will be the primary beneficiary of that asset. It is only fair. It's standard business practice." My blood ran cold. I turned to Jessica. I was waiting for her to be horrified to defend me to shut this down. Instead, she just smiled. She put her hand on mine, that warm hand I knew so well. And she said loud enough for our table to hear, "Mom's right, Ryan. It's a reasonable investment. You should be honored to pay it." And that was it, the trap. This was a classic manipulation test, the loyalty double bind. It's a situation designed so you cannot win. If I pay the money, I prove I'm weak, a walking ATM for the rest of our lives. If I refuse, I prove I don't love her enough. I realized in that second that the only way to win this particular game was not to play at all. In that moment, something inside me just clicked. The emotion switched off, the risk analysis switched on. This marriage proposal just failed its risk assessment. I didn't yell, I didn't argue. I stood up slowly from the table and smiled politely at everyone. "Jennifer, you are absolutely right," I said. "An investment of this magnitude requires careful consideration. I need to go to my office and check my ledgers." I leaned down and kissed Jessica on the cheek. "You'll hear from me soon." She smiled that triumphant, satisfied smile. Jennifer looked like she'd just closed the biggest deal of her life. They thought they had won? They thought I was going to get the money? I walked out of the country club, got into my car, and started the engine. I didn't feel anger. I felt clarity. Pure, cold, analytical clarity. The marriage was over. The only thing left was the strategic liquidation. I started the 10-minute drive home, and I started making the calls. "Call 1 Matthew, my lawyer, my best friend. He picked up on the first ring." "Matthew," I said. "It's happening. Activate the cancellation protocol." He knew exactly what that meant. "Are her names on any joint funds?" "1," I said. "The Vanguard Mutual Fund." "Got it. I'm on it." "Call 2, my financial broker." I need to liquidate the Vanguard Mutual Fund, I said. Yes, the entire thing, $42,000. Transfer it immediately into my personal checking account, the one in my name only, right now. Call 3, the Ashford Estate, the wedding venue. Hello, I need to cancel the wedding scheduled for the 15th. The coordinator gasped. But sir, we're 3 weeks out. You'll lose your deposit. I understand, I said. I am accepting the loss of the $10,000 deposit. Please send me the email confirmation of the cancellation immediately. Then came the rapid-fire calls. I canceled the band. I canceled the photographer. I canceled the flowers. My fiance's mother handed me a $10,000 invoice for raising her daughter. My fiance crossed her arms and said, "Pay it, or the wedding's off." I smiled and replied, "Sure, let me grab my checkbook." Instead, I called the venue and canceled everything. That night, I sent her a picture of me and my groomsmen celebrating at the bar. Her frantic calls kept coming in, but every single one went straight to voicemail. By the time I pulled into my driveway, every single financial and logistical tie to that wedding was severed. I walked inside, sat down, and sent one final text to Jessica. It said, "Still analyzing the invoice? We'll send my formal response tomorrow." Then I turned my phone off. The next morning at exactly 8 a.m., I sent the email. I sent it to Jennifer, to Jessica, and to David, the silent father. The subject line was clear: subject formal response to invoice J1. The email was short and precise. Dear Mrs. Jennifer, after careful review, I am formally declining payment of your invoice. The engagement is terminated. All wedding vendors have been canceled. Jessica's personal belongings, which I have already had packed, will be delivered by courier to your residence by 5 p.m. today. Then the extinction burst began. My phone didn't just ring, it became a vibrating brick of pure chaos. 72 missed calls in 1 hour. Over 100 new text messages. I didn't read them, I just watched the notifications pile up. The first escalation happened at my workplace. Jennifer, in her full asset maximization power suit, bypassed security and stormed onto my floor. She started screaming at my assistant, demanding to see me yelling about breach of contract and financial fraud. I didn't even get up. I just called building security. They arrived. They asked her to leave. She refused. She started yelling that I was a coward, that I had stolen her daughter's future. They had to physically escort her out, dragging her past the glass walls of my entire department. It was the first moment of public sweet catharsis. The second escalation was digital. Jessica launched her social media campaign. She posted a tearful black and white Instagram story. The text read, "My heart is completely broken by the one person I trusted most in the world. Sometimes you never truly know someone." Of course, her friends swarmed. My DMs filled with messages calling me a monster, a sociopath, a gaslighter. I just screenshotted everything. The third escalation arrived that afternoon, a letter from Jennifer's lawyer. It was a work of art. The letterhead looked like it was made in Microsoft Word. Matthew, my real lawyer, looked it over. The letter was riddled with legal-sounding nonsense. It demanded I immediately pay the $25,000 invoice and an additional $50,000 for emotional damages and reputational harm. Matthew just laughed. He tossed the letter on his desk. "This is garbage," he said. "This isn't from a real lawyer. It's from a cheap online legal service." He leaned back in his chair. "But this is important, Ryan. This isn't just a desperate bluff." He tapped the letter. "This shows they won't stop. They aren't just angry. They actually truly believe they are right. They believe you owe them." Jennifer didn't back down. Of course she didn't. Her next move was the final escalation. She called my company's human resources department. She filed a formal complaint claiming I was subjecting her daughter to financial abuse and had fraudulently misrepresented my intentions to gain access to Jessica's, well, she didn't specify what exactly. My boss called me into his office. HR was there. They looked concerned, legally obligated to investigate. I calmly laid out the entire story. I showed them the email with the invoice attached. I showed them the ridiculous letter from the online lawyer. My boss just stared at the invoice. HR looked stunned. "She charged you for raising her own daughter?" my boss finally asked. I nodded, "and demanded payment before the wedding." The HR representative shook her head. "Okay, Ryan, we'll handle this. This is beyond inappropriate." That was it for me. This wasn't just about a broken engagement anymore. This was an attack on my professional life, my reputation. I called Matthew. "Matthew," I said, my voice cold, "enough is enough. File the restraining order for harassment." Now, Matthew got to work preparing the case, and that's when he found it. The smoking gun, the checkmate piece. He called me late one night, his voice buzzing with excitement. "Ryan, you are not going to believe this," he said. "Jennifer isn't just crazy, she's incorporated." I didn't understand. Incorporated. She runs online webinars, Matthew explained, almost laughing. Get this, the title is Parental ROI, How to Monetize Your Child's Marriage. I was speechless. She has PDF guides, Ryan Matthew continued. Step-by-step instructions on how to create legally sound invoices. How to frame the demand as reimbursement for investment. How to pressure future sons-in-law. He emailed me the links. I clicked. There she was. Jennifer smiling professionally into a webcam, presenting slides with bullet points about asset valuation and negotiation tactics. This wasn't a personal delusion. This was her business model. The court hearing arrived. Jennifer showed up, dressed like she was attending a board meeting, radiating smug confidence. She brought her fake lawyer letter and, unbelievably, the framed $25,000 invoice. She presented the invoice to the judge, proof of the agreement, Your Honor, she declared. A standard business arrangement he verbally agreed to consider. The judge looked at the invoice, then at Jennifer, then at me. His expression was baffled. Then Matthew stood up. Your Honor, Matthew said calmly, holding up a thick stack of printouts. We also have documentation. He placed the papers on the judge's bench. These are materials from Mrs. Jennifer's own online business seminar. He pointed to the title page, Parental ROI, How to Monetize Your Child's Marriage. Matthew continued, his voice steady. The invoice presented is not evidence of a family disagreement, Your Honor. It is evidence of the defendant's predatory business model, which she actively teaches to others. The judge started reading. His eyes widened. He flipped through the pages, the sample invoices, the scripts for demanding payment, the advice on leveraging emotional manipulation. The courtroom was silent. Jennifer's confident smile started to falter. The judge slowly lowered the papers. He looked directly at Jennifer. His face was turning red. He took a deep breath. Ma'am, the judge said, his voice dangerously low, are you telling me that you run a course teaching parents how to extort their children's fiancés? Jennifer stammered. It's about valuing parental investment, Your Honor. The judge slammed his hand on the bench, making everyone jump. Valuing, this is outrageous. He looked at Matthew, then back at Jennifer. Restraining order granted, he snapped. 1 year, no contact whatsoever. Ma'am, if you so much as send this man a postcard, you will be in contempt of court. This is a courtroom, not your con artist classroom. Jennifer stared, utterly shocked. She opened her mouth, but the judge cut her off. Get out. That evening, exhausted but relieved, I got a call from an unknown number. Usually, I'd ignore it, but something made me pick up. Ryan, a hesitant female voice, asked, It's Sarah. Jennifer's sister, Aunt Sarah. I'd only met her a few times. I heard what happened in court, she said quietly. I needed to call you. I needed to tell you something. She paused. You did the right thing, Ryan. You escaped. You did what Jessica's brother Michael couldn't. My blood ran cold again. Michael Jennifer. And she did something similar to him 5 years ago. Sarah explained, her voice trembling. When Michael got engaged, Jennifer tried to force his fiancée to sign a contract. A spousal career equity agreement, she called it. Basically demanding a percentage of Michael's future earnings. I couldn't breathe. His fiancée refused, Sarah continued. Jennifer made their lives hell. Michael, they eloped. They moved out of the country. They cut off all contact. She sighed heavily. Jennifer told everyone Michael's wife had brainwashed him, isolated him. Jessica doesn't even know the real reason her brother left. Jennifer has poisoned her mind against him for years. So it wasn't just a business model, it was a pattern, a sickness. And Jessica wasn't just a victim of it, she was a product of it. And a participant. It was over. The silence that followed the court battle was absolute. The restraining order was in effect. The harassment stopped. Then one last message came through. From a number I didn't recognize. It was Jessica. I'm so sorry, Ryan, the text read. I had no idea about the webinars. I swear, I just found out. Mom manipulated me. She manipulated my whole life. Please, 4 years. Can't we fix this? I looked at the message for a long time. I thought about the woman I loved, or at least the woman I thought she was. I thought about her standing at that party, her hand on mine, her eyes cold, telling me I should be honored to pay. I typed out my last reply. Maybe she did manipulate you, but when the real loyalty test finally came, you chose her. Good luck with your investment. I sent it, and then I blocked the number. I sat down at my desk, the risk analyst in me needing to close the books. I ran the numbers. The $10,000 lost deposit for the venue, the $15,000 ring, which was now just a rock in a box, the various other deposits for flowers and music, total financial loss around $28,000. But here's the strange part. I didn't feel angry about the money. I didn't feel that rush of triumph I expected. I just felt relief. We're so often focused on results. We think a decision is right only if the outcome is good, if we win the money or get the promotion, but the real value of what I did, it wasn't about winning in court. It wasn't about dodging a $25,000 invoice. The victory was in the moment I chose my own dignity over their toxic manipulation. The win happened the second I stood up from that table and walked out of the party. The success isn't measured by the money, it's measured by the peace I reclaimed for my own mind. So, the $28,000 price to buy back the rest of my life, it was the best investment I ever made. So what's the real lesson here? It's simple. When someone hands you an invoice for love, it's not a transaction. It's a hostage situation. And you never ever negotiate with hostage takers. You just leave. What's the biggest financial red flag you've ever encountered in a relationship? Let us know. And what would you have done if you received that $25,000 invoice? Would you pay or would you walk away? Tell us your thoughts in the comments below. This is Project Checkmate. Subscribe for more strategies on reclaiming your power.